Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Peter Hornberger. We're going to try something a little different today with this webinar. We're actually going to attempt to do a short webinar. We know that with the holidays coming up that everybody's time is busy and trying to get a month's worth of work done in likely a couple of weeks or so. So we want to do something a little shorter. We're going to try to get through our 10 points today in 20 minutes or less.
Yeah, our Christmas gift is 40 minutes back to everybody.
That being said, we will have time at the end of the presentation for questions. And really, there's a second reason we wanted to do this. We are going to, on the back end of this, release an ebook that's going to go into a deeper dive about all the points that we talk about. So look out for that. We'll make sure that everybody that attends gets a copy of that as well. And as we go through this, we are talking about 10, we have 10 main points for channel practices that we think are going extinct. And these aren't anything new. I think that a lot of you have probably heard these, but we thought it would be valuable and relevant to put together a checklist. And we like to think of this list as things that in 2015, if you can avoid doing, great. We'd recommend not doing them. If you still have to do some of these, which is likely the case for a lot of you, what we would recommend is in 2015 starting to create a plan for moving away from some of them. So let's go ahead and get started. Stephen and I are actually going to just pass these points off one at a time as we move through, and I'll start off with the first one. The first practice that we see, going the way of the dinosaur would be the expectation that your partners know how to market themselves. Historically, our clients have remained fairly hands-off with their partners. You give them a few materials, you pat them on the back, and you say happy hunting. And the problem there is that you're leaving a lot of potential untapped because in reality, partners do not have what they need to effectively market. They don't have the headcounts to manage it. They don't have the right resources. And the second problem is you don't have a way to actually measure what they're doing when they're doing it themselves. The solution, or the new standard as we're calling it, is serving up for your partners smart, collected materials for partners through platforms and storefronts. It's not just branded collateral sheets. It's full marketing campaigns with ROI calculators, syndicated information that has configurable collateral builds. A well-thought-out channel partner marketing strategy is designed to eke out the maximum number of leads and deals from your partners. And the companies that we see doing the best at this are what we call TPMAs, through partner marketing agencies. They're on the forefront of the technological solutions out there to attack this problem. They're going to offer you tools that integrate into your other systems that are going to give you success metrics on the campaigns that your partners are executing, things like clicks and visits and so forth. And we've amassed a handful of TPMAs. There's a pretty large list of them, and we put together some of the top ones along the right-hand side for your reference.
Thanks, Peter. Point number 2, just jumping right into it, is siloed channel systems. And this is a point that we discuss with, I think, every single client today. And historically, what really has driven this is disjointed channel systems, one-offs built by different administrations, and then it really leads to portal sprawl. And we'll show you guys an interesting slide on that in a second. The problem really is everything's not connected, right? And how do you get that big picture view? And the expectations today are very high. Yeah, Peter, you can go ahead and flip it. But the expectations are very high today for those for that single view, both from an executive level and administrative level at every level. And as we look at portal sprawl, we can't see everyone raise their hands, but if I asked everyone to raise their hand, I think a lot of people would say, yeah, this is kind of what we look like. And we have this conversation on a regular basis on, how do we move into a single pane of glass view for the partners and really work that well for the administrators as well. Okay? And the solution really today is a unified, the new standard is a unified and integrated channel offering. Single pane of glass is a term that comes up, once again, in almost every single conversation that we have with folks. And the benefit really is a complete view, one place to look, end-to-end dashboards that gauge and energize. And I think we really have to break this down into 2 sections. It is the partner side, the single pane of glass on that front end, right? For example, when a partner comes in and they want to execute on a campaign, a simple example is they want to see how many dollars they have in NDF there. They don't want to go somewhere else to see that, right? And then on the administrative side, you want to be able to follow demand generations from its origin all the way to its completion. And you want to be able to see that walkthrough in one place. So we're just seeing an awful lot of demand for this, and I think it's a great trend.
Thanks, Stephen. Third is slow payments. Slow payments kill your channel program's effectiveness. And I want to draw a distinction here as we look at this point. There is a difference between the speed at which payments for a fund program, an MDF or a co-op program needs to go, and the payments for a SPIF or a sales reward. And we'll call that out as we get to our next slide. Stephen and I both come from a partner background, and we both received a lot of different benefits from many vendors. And I can't tell you how many times I would receive checks, months past the submission of a claim or the completion of some behavior that I was being rewarded for. And I'd look at the check and I'd say, great, I have money, but I don't know what I did to do this, so I don't know how to repeat it and do it again. And that's really the point and the problem here is if you are not reinforcing favorable behaviors for your partners, somebody else is. So the solution, the best practices, the new standard for these. For fund programs, turning around payments in 21 days or less. So getting a check in the hands of your partner 21 days after they complete an activity. For SPIFs and sales rewards, it's going to be closer to instantaneous, the fastest you can get it done. And the difference is really, it has to do with the benefits. The benefits are a little different depending on those two. Again, for fund programs, the benefits are going to be you're capturing mindshare, you're reinforcing favorable behaviors and encouraging repetition, and you're creating loyal partners. All those things are true for your SPIF and sales programs, but you also benefit from this idea of temporal discounting. And the idea of temporal discounting is that we as individuals prefer to receive smaller rewards sooner rather than larger rewards later on. What that does is stretch your budget farther. You are able to use a smaller reward very quickly for your partners and use less money and spread your budget farther across your partner base. And we'll talk a little bit about how to do that when we get to payment modality later.
Yeah. All right, number 4, optimizing for the short run. And here we're really talking about one thing, or maybe two things, really, homegrown or custom bespoke channel tools and solutions. And we've seen this arise whether it's an IT department coming in and saying, hey, I'll build it, or even if it's outsourced and if it's a complete customized solution, we see the same things arise. And it really is what we would call the 2-year headache. And that's generally where that excitement has worn off. So the IT team builds it. It may take a long time, but they get it up and they get it running. 2 years into it, everyone realizes there's no strategic guidance. It's completely customized. It's really challenging to scale. And the big problem there in a lot of cases is there's been so much invested into it. It's a real challenge. We have to work hard on the ROI to look at perhaps making that change. And even if it's been outsourced, historically, there was a lot of bespoke solutions in channel programs, and that's what a lot of us did. And there's just been a big change in that and a move towards customization through configuration. So we avoid that 2-year headache, right? Okay. And really the optimization in the new standard is a strong configurable system built to integrate. Customization through configuration is this mantra that I'm pretty sure everyone is buying into, and it makes a ton of sense, right? You want a more nimble program. You want flexibility. You want configuration versus customization. You want scalability, cloud-based. You want it to stand up and move quickly, minimize the IT holdups. You're going to get a lower cost of operation in this, right? We want to move away from having to ask the suppliers who support you to do everything. And you want more agility, right? You want to be able to respond as the market changes. And I think one that's getting more and more important is you want to make sure that you can have integrations seamlessly and easily to all the peripherals that help create that single pane of glass. And that really means you need to have standard API web services.
Great, thanks, Stephen. Our 5th point, spreadsheets. Here at CCI, we apply the term spreadsheet hell to the idea of running channel programs out of spreadsheets. That's because there are so many headaches associated with running channel programs in spreadsheets. You have to deal with versioning, out-of-date information, inavailability. The number one problem is spreadsheets are disconnected. They're disconnected from your business systems, and they're disconnected from other departments. And there's no automatic updating, so as soon as you step away from them, they're out of date. The solution's pretty straightforward. This is quick. End-to-end channel tools. There's a lot of tools out there to allow you to move away from spreadsheets. And in today's market, you need information that is at your fingertips, on the web, on your mobile device, readily available. And that information is going to help you make more informed decisions. And again, this is a little bit of a point that we'll get to down the road when we talk about visibility. But the key is you don't want to be doing anything on spreadsheets anymore. You need agile, integrated solutions that are available at your beck and call.
Okay. Number 6 in the countdown here is something we run into on a fairly regular basis today for a couple of reasons I'll go into in a moment. But it's a good app in the wrong application. And really this is being driven, well, actually I'll start with historically, this is really about shoehorning these applications and needs into a mainstream CRM or an ERP. And we really see this driven from 2 directions. One is at a very high level, executives looking at perhaps a buy-in to a substantial CRM that's across an organization going, hey, this will work well. And what they realize, once again, this is where we end up with the 2-year headache piece is it really doesn't work well. It's not designed as an incentive platform, and it ends up with a lot of problems, right? It ends up being expensive to maintain, bad partner experience. It's usually not designed by folks who have a lot of channel experience, and you end up waiting a long time for updates. Now, the other side that we see, besides it being driven down, is it being driven up. And that means there's a lot of organizations that have been searching for a good automated tool as they start to build maybe their smaller channels. And historically, that's been a problem. But there's a lot of suppliers out there now that offer an ability to really start with a simple automated system. Okay? And that's really the new standard, right? The right application integrated with good apps. And the new standard really is especially tailored applications that play well with your existing systems. And they take advantage of standard APIs and web services. And that huge upswing in the use of those standard and development and use of those standard APIs and web services over the past several years really made this effective. And you're going to get a big benefit out of this, right? You're going to be involved with a true financial tool. You're going to be involved with a highly configurable system. You're going to lower your cost of maintenance. You're going to have ongoing support. And I think really importantly, a lot of people reach out from where they were with that good app in a bad place and are looking for strategic guidance. Remember, this is a platform and a program. It's not just a tool that you're looking for, and that's a huge differentiation.
7th, operating without visibility. Historically, programs have offered little information to your administrators, your approvers, your CAMs, your PAMs. And as a result, it's been difficult to choose which partners to focus on. Those decisions have historically been made based on either relationships, hunches, or singular metrics like a total revenue number. The problem is you're going to make mistakes. You're going to approve the wrong activities. You're going to put your dollars where you're not getting the best return. And you're also going to miss out on potential partners that could have been your growth partners of tomorrow, your rock stars, but they just needed the right nudge at the right time. The new standard, it's pretty straightforward. Operate with visibility. You need dashboards and scorecards that are giving you up-to-date information about your partners. If we look back at that portal sprawl slide, you have a lot of areas, if your portal looks anything like that, you have a lot of areas where you're collecting data about partners. What you need is something that sits in the middle of that and takes all that data into account and gives you relevant information. The idea is simple. Invest in the partners where your dollar is going to go the farthest, and do that through looking at dashboards that give you key KPIs. Use those KPIs to better inform your CAMs and your PAMs so that when they're interacting and meeting with your partners, they have a pointed purpose for what they're doing and how they're pushing partners to grow. And as a result, you're going to start to see more partner tier conversions, whether that's a traditional bronze, silver, gold, how you have that set up, and so forth. The basic point is you're going to see partners rising from base level partners to growth partners and top performers.
Hey, Peter, and I got 2 quick points to add to that. I think it's such a relevant point, this visibility, for 2 key things. One is historically, well, and trending-wise, we're seeing a move from accrual to discretionary spending. And as that move is taking place, there's so much being wagered, it's really doubling down on the right partners. So those KPIs are incredibly important to look at. Who am I spending my money on? I want to get my biggest bang for my buck, right? And I think the other piece that's really driving so much of all of this, right? The tearing down the silos so that you can see the visibility across not only one place but across the organization is because CMOs are asking, what's the ROI of MBF? And it's a hard question to answer, right? And you need a ton of visibility for that. Okay. Number 8, snail mail. And when we're talking about snail mail here, we're really talking about a delivery methodology. We're not necessarily talking about the U.S. Postal Service. Originally, obviously, that's what snail mail was. The challenge in our industry is historically we've got delayed notifications to partners, and sometimes we've got contacting partners where they're not. All we'd have to do is go back to that partner portal or that portal sprawl, and it's very easy to look at and figure out, how could we miss on something? And the problem is you end up with the partners that are out of the loop, you end up with the partners that are bad experience, or with all the competition today for partners' mindshare, maybe you end up not even being able to reach that partner at all. We talked to one partner that got 200 emails from their vendors on a daily basis, so it can get pretty crazy out there. And the solution really is, you need to move to instant mail, right? And that is not just mean, well, it does mean let's get it timely and let's get information to them very quickly. And real-time notifications, payments, roll-offs, claims, incredibly important to have something like a communication manager that really delivers that quickly. But it's incredibly important to make sure that it's going where they are as well. Understand where your partners are. A lot of them are on mobile devices. A lot of them are going to be on social. Really need to make sure not only are we delivering relevant data quickly, but we need to deliver it to the right place.
Number 9, transferring money via slow boat. Now, I don't want this to get confused with our previous point about speeding up time to pay. This is a little different. What we're talking about here is payment modality. And historically, paper checks have ruled the roost when it comes to paying partners. There's a couple of reasons for that, mostly because it's economical. It's the cheapest way to transfer money. But we're also seeing a lot of problems start to crop up as more people are using paper checks. And that really comes internationally because we're starting to see postal mail loss rates upwards of 20% and higher. That's very common around the world. There's a lot of errors and theft that can be made with paper checks. In reality, paper checks are just a pain that should be left behind. And additionally, bank drafts, the international version of a check, are no longer accepted by most international banks. And the problem with that is if you send a partner a check, they get a check, great, you've created a positive experience, you're giving them money, until they walk to their bank and they try and submit that check and they can't. They can't deposit that check into their bank account. You've created now a neutral at best, but more likely a negative situation with your partner. The solution, transfer money via zeros and ones. There are a number of ways you can do electronic payments out to your partners, wire transfers, ACH, reloadable debit cards, points accumulation to spend on travel and merchandise. The benefits are simple. Partners prefer it. It's going to aid in your time to pay problem, and these modes are going to be much more secure for moving your money.
Okay, acting like you rule the world. Okay, this is really about global, and for us it's so interesting because I think 90% of the programs that we've launched on our platform over the past 2 years have been global. And this is a really simple issue that can have a big effect. We're really talking about dollars to a partner. And we define here program-centric and partner-centric pretty simply. Program-centric would mean that a payment is being made in USD and the partner is going to have to manage the flux in the exchange rate. Where a partner-centric program is the payment is made in the currency of the partner, and the payment is made based on the time that the partner makes their claim. So they actually get paid what they expect to get paid. So it's an incredibly important and very simple way to look at how do I really manage for the partners. Okay. And the new trend really is partner-centric programs, paying the partner in their native currency instead of their own. Reimbursing the partner the exact amount, once again, and the vendor choosing to absorb the difference in the financial value. It goes an awful long way, and we're starting to see a lot of organizations move this way. The biggest challenge is frankly, working with internal finance departments. The sales and marketing groups, totally on board. Finance departments, we're working on that. And the justification is absolutely a stronger bond with that partner and a stronger partner experience.
Yeah, and I wanted to call out here, we underlined and called this a new trend. The rest of them, it's been a new standard, and the market has moved in a lot of way towards the latter half of these points. In this one, we're seeing a lot of conversations about this, and a lot of organizations are talking about and preparing to move this way. But this is something that has by no means taken over yet. But we think it's an important discussion point that you need to start having in 2015 and preparing for and prepping your finance departments to potentially move this way in the future.
Okay. All right, so will your program make it to the next millennium? The top 10 new standards, and we're just going to roll through these pretty quickly, right? Number one, offering tools to market for the partners. I think it's no surprise that people understand that partners are not very good at marketing, and there's a lot of ways now to compensate for that. Unified channel systems. We've got to tear down those silos. We've got to share that information across the organization. I think it's incredibly important. We need to have payments at the speed of light. Industry best practices, NDF in less than 21 days. Awful lot of folks make payments every single week, get NDF payments in less than 10 days to their partners. Optimizing for the long run. Look, customization through configuration is the absolute key. Really make sure you're building something for scale. Moving beyond spreadsheets. Peter has a white paper. It's a great white paper. It's a little old, but it's a great white paper, and it shows 16% ROI just for removing human error. And that's before you get to anything to do with integrating and sharing data. Literally just removing human mistakes has a 16% ROI. I'm glad to share that with anybody. The right application integrated with a good app. Hey, look, let's fight the good battle. You're going to get pressure from up top. You're going to get pressure from down below to make use of things you already have. That makes sense, and you should ask, and you should look. But the reality is there are applications out there that are CRM and ERP that are just not really well designed for incentive programs. Operating with visibility, absolutely. You need to have everything from role-based dashboards to visibility for the partner across whatever they're doing very easily and very simply. Instant mail, communicate quickly, communicate well, communicate relevantly. Transferring money via zeros and ones. Hey, look, people still do checks in the U.S. It's inexpensive. I get it. But eventually we're going to see more and more move to the U.S. We really see this impact globally where we just highly recommend folks move with wire transfers and get away from bank drafts. It's just not worth the hassle for the partner experience. And then letting the partners feel like they rule the world. You get a big bump in partner loyalty when you say, hey, we understand you work in a different currency. Yes, we're a U.S.-driven company. Yes, we operate in USD here. But look, you're a part of our family here. It's a true partnership, and we're willing to take this extra step. So we're more than glad to share some ideas on that one and some of the conversations that we have had with organizations and their finance teams.
Thanks, Stephen. And thanks, everyone, for joining us today. Those are our 10 points. I've got a few questions here. If there's any additional, please feel free to ask them. We'll take a few minutes and go through these. First off, I had a couple people asked, is there just a way to get a copy of the deck? And yes, absolutely. We'll have a follow-up email that sends out to everyone with a copy of the deck and a link to the recording once that's posted on the website. So we'll make sure that gets into your hands. First question is, how are you seeing channel strategies evolving as vendors are launching new SaaS solutions alongside existing on-premise solutions that have had strong channel participation?
So that's a long answer to that. What I think the short version of that is you have to change how you reward and how you manage your programs. We're in conversations with a lot of folks that we have that are going, our clients who are going through exactly that, and they've really had to re-examine what their programs are and how they reward and how they work with their partners, right? Because it's a completely different scenario for those partners that are reselling, and they're going to need to be motivated in different ways.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of ways too. If you're launching alongside rather than replacing, any SaaS solution out there today has standard APIs and has engineering departments that are able to integrate into existing solutions that you have. And so there's a lot of ways that you can build with those companies, ways to link into those previous applications that have participation and figure out how to make those two talk to each other and work nicely together. That's pretty standard in a SaaS rollout these days. Next question, it says, I see you guys talked about, fund programs, and you talked about spiffs and sales rewards. What about rebates when it comes to speed of pay?
Historically, the way that we've lined this up and what we've seen is specific rewards need to be instantaneous. MDF, we're trying to get as quickly as possible, and that's the industry best practice for less than 21 days. Rebates are a really interesting subject for us right now because historically we've seen rebates, we believe, not managed to their full capability of really creating loyalty with partners. It's a price adjustment that's done on a quarterly basis, and we have so many, even of our clients, who write those checks, and I'm not going to say it's become an entitlement, but it really has become more of a part of a pricing strategy. And so right now, people are trying to do that quarterly, and they want to get them, within a reasonable period of time, within 10 days after the end of that quarter would be great. The interesting thing on rebates is the discussion on not only how you're paying them, but how you're managing them, and moving away from just simply writing them a check to actually putting them in a program where they can see progress against goal and start to gamify even something like rebates a little bit. And then when you get to that level and you have partners maybe even more involved in it and tracking that, I bet we'll see a need for an acceleration in that payment as well. So kind of be interesting to see how that plays out.
Great. Thanks, Stephen. And then our next question, I believe our last question, is what is the best practice regarding lead registration and partner prospect protection?
Wow. So once again, that's a kind of a long answer to that, and I'm going to say it depends. It depends on what you're trying to reward, and we've got some interesting white papers and some documents on that we can send out, and we're glad to do that. It depends on sales cycles, what you're selling, who they're selling to, whether you're what behaviors that you really want to encourage, right? Is it all about filling up the pipeline, or is it about filling up the pipeline with high quality, or is it a blend of both? So there's a lot of data points that we could go into that, and glad to have that conversation.
Yeah, and I think the key thing that was called out there is anytime you're doing a lead referral program with your partners, you absolutely need checks and balances in place to protect them from feeling like they got poached, and that that plays into the partner prospect protection. And there's a lot of ways you can attack that and handle that. First off is using an automated solution that's tracking those referrals and so forth, and those leads. But beyond that, there's just a lot of organizational training about this is how we as a company operate, and making sure that there are checks and balances if things go awry.
And it really, once you get even when you're using an automated system, it's only going to be as good as how you set it up, right? And how you build those checks and balances into it from a complexity level on making sure that you're, who are you rewarding, how are you rewarding them, who else do you have involved in it, and it can go from very, very simple programs to very, very complex.